Why planning matters in love more than passion. How clear strategy creates the conditions for enduring intimacy. Opening reflection. There's a reason why passion burns hot and dies fast. It's not because something was wrong, it's because something was missing. Most people think love fails because of the wrong person. But more often, it fails because of the absence of a plan. You would never go to war on emotion alone. You would never build a home with no blueprint. You would never cross an unknown jungle with no map, no food, no supplies, just a feeling. And yet, that's how most people enter relationships, led by chemistry, blinded by emotion, and shocked when it collapses. This is not a warning against love. This is an invitation to love strategically, because passion may open the gate, but it's planning that builds the road. In this episode of Strategic Intimacy, we explore why planning matters more than passion, why timing, clarity, and structure are not cold, but sacred, and why the deepest love requires not just a full heart, but a wise mind. Let's begin. 1. Passion is a spark. Planning is a foundation. Passion is beautiful, but by nature it is unstable. It is a chemical event, a rush of hormones, a collapse of boundaries, a moment where time stretches and logic dissolves. That can be divine, but it is not sustainable. It's not designed to last, because it is the ignition, not the engine. A spark can start a fire, but without fuel, structure, and containment, it either goes out or burns the house down. Planning is what shapes the fire. It is what determines whether the flame becomes a candle, a hearth, or a forest fire. In love, planning is not about control. It's about honoring the gravity of what's unfolding. What are we building? What are we willing to face? How will we protect this when life gets hard? These are not questions that kill romance. They're the questions that make it real. 2. Most people confuse spontaneity with freedom. There's a myth in modern love that real love should just flow, that planning kills the vibe, that talking about the future makes you needy or too intense. But let's look deeper. In reality, the most freeing relationships are the ones where there's a clear container, where both people know what page they're on, where the rules are not written in fear but clarity. Spontaneity without structure leads to chaos. Structure without spontaneity leads to stagnation. The goal isn't to be rigid, it's to be aligned. When a couple plans together, they remove the ambiguity that causes 90% of the pain. Questions like, where is this going? Am I the only one who feels this way? Are we even compatible long term? Those don't arise when a plan exists. You don't need to have every detail figured out, but you do need a shared direction. That direction becomes your compass, and without it, even the most passionate journey can feel lost. 3. Love without vision is just repetition. When you don't have a long-term plan, you're not loving someone, you're repeating patterns, you react instead of respond, you seek chemistry over compatibility. You trade consistency for excitement. Many people keep dating versions of the same person, falling into the same fights, having the same endings, but calling it fate. This is not fate. It's a lack of strategy. Without conscious planning, your unconscious programs take over, and those programs don't lead to connection. They lead to reenactments of old wounds. When you make a plan for love, you stop chasing your past and start creating your future. It becomes less about what you feel in a moment and more about what you're building across time. And that's where real intimacy begins. 4. Timing is a strategic weapon in romance. You can meet the right person at the wrong time, and it will still fall apart. Not because you weren't meant for each other, but because neither of you was in position. The art of war teaches that even the strongest army loses if it advances too soon or waits too long. Love is no different. Timing is not passive, It is tactical, knowing when to commit, when to reveal, when to lean in, and when to pause. These are not accidents. They are strategic decisions. Planning lets you align timing with readiness. Instead of rushing based on chemistry or retreating out of fear, a wise lover doesn't just ask, "Do I love this person?" They ask, "Is this the moment to act on it?" Because sometimes the greatest proof of love is the willingness to wait. 5. Passion doesn't predict long-term compatibility. One of the most dangerous myths in love is that the more passion you feel at the beginning, the more it means. But high passion often correlates with unresolved longing, with projection, with fantasies trying to become real. That doesn't make it wrong, but it makes it risky. Compatibility is quiet. It reveals itself in how you argue, in how you solve problems, in how you make decisions under stress. Without a plan, you won't know if your values align, if your life goals are compatible, if you both want the same kind of life. Love without alignment is not romantic. It's exhausting. And many people don't find that out until they're deep in. When you lead with passion, you get surprise. When you lead with planning, you get clarity. And that clarity is a gift to both people. 6. Planning prevents power imbalances. In the absence of structure, the person with the least interest holds the most power. That is not strategy. That is submission to emotional chaos. When there is no plan, one person waits, the other avoids. One person opens, the other withholds. One person sacrifices, the other receives. This is not love. It is emotional inequality. But when both people agree to a plan, when they co-create the future intentionally, power becomes balanced. Not in a rigid way, but in a respectful way. And when respect exists, love has a place to breathe. 7. Love without planning is vulnerable to outside forces. A relationship without strategy is like a ship with no anchor. It drifts. It gets hit by every wave. It runs aground at the first storm. Life will test your love. Illness, career transitions, family dynamics, emotional triggers. When you haven't built a foundation, when you haven't talked through your vision, when you haven't made any agreements, then those tests become fatal. But when you've planned, even a simple outline, even just shared values and principles, you can weather the storms. You know what you're protecting and why it matters, and that knowledge can save a relationship from being destroyed by things that were never about love in the first place. 8. Planning is the most romantic thing you can do. Planning isn't about spreadsheets and calendars. It's about intention. It says, "I see a future with you. I care enough to think ahead. I'm not here to consume you. I'm here to build something with you." That is romantic. That is devotion. Because anyone can say, "I love you," but not everyone can prove it through alignment, action, and foresight. Passion may spark desire, but planning earns trust. And in the end, trust is what holds when passion fades, because it will fade, not permanently, but rhythmically. And when it does, what's left is the structure you built together. If it's strong, the passion will return. If it's missing, the passion was never real. If this spoke to something deep in you, if you felt the confusion of passion without direction, if you're ready to approach love with clarity instead of chaos, subscribe to Strategic Intimacy and consider becoming a member to support this work. We are building a space for emotionally intelligent strategy, for love that is both tender and tactical, for intimacy that honors the heart without losing the mind. Next episode preview. In our next transmission, we explore long-term vision as the supreme advantage in romance. You'll learn why most people date without direction, and how to harness your long-range emotional strategy to attract, select, and sustain the kind of connection that actually matches your values. Because the strongest partner isn't the one who excites you the most in the first 30 days. It's the one who is still beside you after 30 storms.